welcome everyone and a very good evening to this One Hub Racing Season 23 Round 6, the ERT race of Las Vegas. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Sky and I'll be providing all the coverage that we have for this sprint weekend, Round 6 out on the calendar. But before we're going to dive into some more information about this race, I'll first show you what the calendar is like, what we've had so far, and what we still have in store. First up is our season calendar. As you can see, 12 races in total. Tonight, race 6. So after tonight, we will be halfway there. We've had some great racing in Qatar, Imola, Hungary, Brazil, and last week out we had Japan with some pretty cool overtakes out there in the end. And unfortunately some incidents that also have quite a bit of an impact on the championship standings, but more about that I will tell you later. Tonight we have our second sprint weekend, 4 sprint weekends that we have in total, and tonight will be our second sprint weekend. What that means is that we'll first have qualifying, and that will determine the start for the sprint. The sprint will be 7 laps, and that will determine the starting order for the race, which will be 22 laps, where we also have our OHR mandatory 2-pit stop rule, and for both sessions. The top 12 will score their points. No fastest lap to be points awarded in a sprint, but in a race, 1 for our top 10 and our top 12 and 1 outside of our top 12. So that is how the season looks like. Next week we will be in Portugal, but today we have all eyes focused on Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, 6.120 kilometers long or 3.803 miles. The first time that we'll be racing here in Las Vegas, at least on this track, and definitely for One Hub Racing 2. Not the first time that there was a race here, because in the parking lot of Caesars Palace in 1982 there was already a race in Las Vegas, but since then we have now gone back with a new race. Mixed feedback about that from a lot of the drivers. It's of course a great venue to be at. The track itself might look a little bit dull, and so long straights that you have there as well. Of course, the scenery there is quite nice. 17 corners in total, as you can also see, with 2 DRS zones. And later on I'll take you through some of the corner names, because we will, for example, drive past the Caesars Palace, the MSG Sphere, the Palazzo Venetian, the Mirage Treasure Island, the Bellagio Fountains, and of course Planet Hollywood as well. So some quite nice things that we will come across. So that it is for the race today. As you can see as well, we'll be using the C5, C4, and C3 tires, which means we will use the softest set of compounds that are available. And that is the most important thing that you need to know for now. We'll first go to the drivers, because there is quite a few things that we need to note here. This was of course the driver lookout, as you can see here, but we had a driver change. Sharky will no longer be competing for Red Bull and will be replaced by Chiquace. I hope I pronounce his name well. If not, I'm pretty sure I'll be corrected on that. So 1 driver swap, and also for this race we have 7 drivers that have taken an engine penalty. Remember, to take 1 engine penalty at the very least is mandatory as well here at One Up Racing. What that means is that you take a penalty, you will not be participating in qualifying and start from the back of the grid. And today we have 7 drivers that are taking that penalty, including one of our championship competitors, which is Rageman. Along with that we have John, so JR Mason 54, Fozzie Bear, Chiquace immediately coming in, taking that penalty. Giggle, our race winner last time out, Truth, and then MFC Tronders all taking this engine penalty tonight. And I think a lot more drivers will be taking it next week when we're going to land in Portugal. Now, for some interviewing chats, before I'm going to take you over the standings. If we look at our pre-race interviews, we see a lot of the drivers mention that they're not very fond of the track, and they're still struggling to get a good setup. Although Funky seems to disagree a little bit, is a little bit more fond of the track. Funky, also our current championship leader, fairly significantly at this moment. So given the fact that he seems to like the track, It's perhaps not a good sign for our other drivers. Funky also mentioned in the drivers' press conference that his goal for the rest of the season is to mainly just stay consistent, and he considers his main rival to be Rachman, who is currently second in the championship. Then we also had Jamie give out a little bit of his words. He mentioned that his goal is to finish in the top 5, which means he will be automatically placed into next season's P3 tier. But for now, it looks like, at least he thinks it's likely that he'll end between spot 6, 7, and 8 at the end of the season. He had some unfortunate races in Qatar and Brazil, where in Qatar, sloppy qualifying cost him potentially a win, he said, and in Brazil, the penalty perhaps cost him a podium. Then we have our driver of the day interviews. What I took out of that is that Funky was quite surprised to see that he was able to win with such a big gap. I think he won by about 8 or 9 seconds, so that's quite a big margin, especially here in the F1 esports that we have, also at One Up Racing. Then about last race, quite a few drivers had something to say about that. First of all, Truth mentioned he had very good pace, more than the finishing position says, unfortunately, and that is due to some incidents that he had in the race. Jamie mentioned that he had a terrible qualifying, but he had a good P6 result in the race, although also very glad the race at Suzuka is over. And Rachman, yeah, he had a race to forget. He crashed out in the race, and that means that Funky has taken quite a significant lead in the championship, so it'll be a race for him to forget. For Jess then, mentioning that it went better as expected, starting to like the track a little bit more, although it's still not a favorite. For Ols, he is saying that his race wasn't great, and he's glad it's over, although he's not looking forward to Las Vegas either. And then finally, Hookie very much enjoyed the race. He did lose a little bit of pace in the hairpin he mentioned. He did have some hindrance from that second safety car. Let's see in the meantime if we are loading in. We are not loading in yet, so that means I still have some time to go over our current standings. If we go over our current standings, I'll just quickly change back to this overlay. Our current standings, Funky is in the lead, 97 points to his name, followed by Rachman in second place, 74 points. Truth comes in third at the moment with 50 points, and Giggle slowly trying to catch up with Truth. He is now in fourth position. He's on 48 points, nearly leading 1 point over Nick, who is on 47 points. Picked up a nice P3 result last race, with of course Giggle winning that race. Then our top 10 rounded off by Jamie in 6th, Matthias, Jess, Ghost, and Fozzie Bear. So that is your top 10, with Fozzie Bear rounding up with 28 points. Shows that at least the gap from 6 to 10, only 8 points, so that is fairly close. Then we have our constructor standings as well, where Haas has a fairly good lead, mainly because of Funky, of course, leading the championship. 133 points for Haas, 102 for McLaren, and then the Oracle Red Bull Racing team coming in with 77 points, just 1 point ahead of the Aston Martin Aramco Cognizant F1 team. That is what you need to know about the results. In the meantime, we're going to get another track we are now currently loading in, so quickly take you over our sponsors for this race before we are moving into the qualifying for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. So the prize pool, we have a total of a £2,500 prize pool divided over our series, with a driver's championship will win a nice £50 voucher for PS or Amazon, and the rest of the top 5 free entry to the next season. And for the constructor championship, the winner of that will also get free entry into our next season. Then we have NLR sponsoring one of the winners from the 3 tiers with a very nice seat setup. As you can see here, the GT Elite Light Cockpit and the Elite ES1 Sim Racing seat. For second and third, one of those from the series will get the GT Light Cockpit and ERS2 Racing seat, and all the drivers that participate in 10 races during the season will be in a chance to win an NLR Wheel Stand 2.0. Furthermore, also sponsored by Aztec, we'll be sharing these very nice boots in the shortest combined qualifying time, as well as Pure Sim Gear, who will award for the driver with the most fastest laps and pole positions combined, a pair of sim racing plus 4 socks. We have Mystery Sim Box for our driver's ranking winner, where I believe Funky is currently leading the standings, so that's looking good for our P3 tier. We have Vespertine powering us, as well as ERT. ERT also, huge shout out to them for doing the Going Gets Tough award, which means that if you attend all races, finish outside the top 3, and complete all pre and post race interviews, you have a chance to win that very nice t-shirt. And then finally, to round off, we are powered by SimGrid, where you can find our standings, and of course the Mental Health Foundation. Now, I think without further ado, we should hop in straight into the action, because I believe we have started here already, and we are currently watching our drivers on our outlap, as we can now see everything underway. No sound for the time being that I can hear, at least from the cars, but that's probably because we are a little bit further away. Let's try and go on board, and still not get any sound from that, so that means I have some checking to do, but I had some issues with that earlier on this week, so hopefully we can get that sorted if we just play around with that a little bit, because now we have sound. Let's see, if we look at our minimap, I see one of the McLarens is currently leading the field, so that must be either Fuzzy Bear or Rageman, and that must be Rageman indeed, so we will go on board with Rageman as he's making his way around the... Very good question, not entirely sure what corner it is. The only thing that I do know is that Rageman is immediately coming in again. That's because he is serving that engine penalty, so he will not be competing in the qualifying, just as a few other drivers that we have out here. And then I think, let's see, Fuzzy Bear also went for a penalty. A lot of the drivers are slowing down, but I think the driver that isn't is Funky. No, Matthias. Matthias will be the first one to go for a run, so follow him as he crosses the Harbor Island Apartments, going into Rochelle Avenue intersection. Crosses that, we will turn right onto Cobalt Lane before we are turning right at Caesar's Forum. If to our left, we will find Caesar's Palace here in Las Vegas. Then he goes very wide, he crashes out! Matthias immediately retires from the session, and this is not a start that you want to have from quali. This is what you get when you have these tracks you're not very used to. Struggles is retired, but that is because he was serving that penalty, and Jess will be the first one likely to complete per lap. Sands Avenue, and now those just past the elevated monorail, so now down Sands, breaking into the Fashion Show Mall. You can find to your right side of Treasure Island and a Mirage now coming by. This is the main strip, the beautiful side of Las Vegas, where you see all the famous things, Bellagio and the Las Vegas fountains. We're having hard braking going and turning left here in Olympic. As you can see, it's very hard to judge the braking here. You can see the numbers here, you can't see them everywhere. Here you have the roundabout zone where you are going to brake, and that's not coming to the island. Right hand side, so rounding up her first lap, and that is 1:34.173, and that will be the benchmark for the other drivers to beat. But with a lot of drivers not competing in the session, means that about half of us will set the lap time. This looks at the fastest lap time, 33.0, significantly faster than the other drivers we've seen so far. Modok Shelby is about to round off his lap. He has come into the pits, so he is not going to continue that all the way through. Furthermore, we have on an out lap, and then we have Ols, who is on a fast lap. So that just finished. He is now in sector 2. Let's see, Jamie is shortly behind him, but he is also on an out lap. I think Ols is the only one currently on a fast lap. Jamie and Hooky on a current out lap. So he's now making his way down the first strip. 353 kilometers an hour is what the peak top speed was. As he goes a little bit wide into the last hard braking point. Now looking up to the main straight. He said his lap time seems to be a little bit off pace compared to Nick. But at least we'll have his back to lap in with 5.5. Definitely some room for improvement here for him. Now, he has started his fast lap as well, but the driver that I also want to keep an eye on later on will be Funky, because Funky is our championship leader, has a good lead over Reachman. Reachman, of course, taking that engine penalty, meaning that Funky might extend his lead here. Of course, we have a momentarily yellow flag in sector 3, but none of the drivers is there, so it's just a little bit of slow driving. Let's go on board with Hookie, who is now making his way through the very fast section, moving down towards the downward pig. I think one of our drivers referred to this as the spider pig from The Simpsons, but then upside down. And to be fair, if you look at it, it does look like a little bit of an upside down pig. But the important thing for us is to figure out who is going to be cooking up the best pork chops and set themselves up for a pole position here at the Vegas Grand Prix. Now overtaking, I think that is Funky on the straight there. Funky is now making his way down the final bit of the track, and he's setting his back to lap time now. And he seems to be quick enough to get close to it for the time being not. He's looking for 1.6 in 5th position, just a tenth off of Norse's lap time. But I will go on board with Funky now. He is starting his first lap time, and let's enjoy that pass to make sure and make sound heading towards this lap. I'll try to be a little bit more quiet so that you can hear the car a little bit more. I see some feedback from the chat that you can't hear me all that well, so I'll move a little bit closer to my mic so the mic can pick it up a little bit better. But for now, we will enjoy the rest of the high-speed action as we move through the spherical section. And I will listen to the car go down the street. Higher top speed for Funky there. 355 was the max that he was able to hit there. He's now going to come around the final bend in a moment's notice and round up his first line lap, but he seems to be quite a bit faster than the other drivers we've been on board with, and Funky is going to set a provisional pole lap time with a 132.4. He goes very well, he crashes out too! Funky is retired! Oh, wow, that's our second retired driver. Okay, so first we saw, I think it was Matthias. Both of the Haas drivers have crashed out. That is insane. So both of our Haas drivers have crashed out. Funky does this after setting a fastest lap time. Matthias did it when he was in his first running. So for him, it means that he is unable to set a lap time. But look at that, a lot of drivers, of course, not setting a lap time because of their engine penalties. Those are 7 drivers, but as you can see, we now have 9 drivers that have retired. So only 8 more that can still set some lap times. Now, Funky mentioning that his controller didn't want him to stop, so that has caused him to crash out. Hopefully his lap will stay, but his lap is quite a bit better than the other driver. 6 tenths quicker than Nick, who is now going to be starting his fast lap. So let's see what he can do in those sectors, if he can come at least anywhere close to Funky's lap time. But 6 tenths is quite a big chunk to take out of there if he wants to take pole position there. We have a yellow flag in the 3rd sector. One of the Alfa Romeos is driving quite slowly there, but looks like he was just getting out of the way of that Mercedes of Jamie. Nick now making his way through the 1st sector. Let's see what kind of lap time he has going for him, because this should be the end, I believe, of sector 1, right about here. I don't see it cap out yet. There it is. 3/10 already quicker, and a purple first sector for Nick. Remember, you only need to improve 3 more tenths if he wants to take pole position here. Going into the very difficult left-handers because there's not a lot of braking zones, at least visual markings for your braking zone. So it's very, very hard to find the right braking spot here as he now comes down the strip. Not much that you can do wrong here. Not much time that you can gain your rider. Earlier on, we saw him hit 353. Now he's already hitting 357. So the car definitely going a little bit quicker. And now not missing the apex here whatsoever. Fortunately, just missed how much quicker he was in Sector 3. But I don't see any purple on the mini-map. Well, let's see what he can do as we go on board with him around the final band. Turn 17, and he comes a little bit short, losing a bit of time after that very, very fast first sector with a 132.8. Just spot up in a provisional second there. So both also improved quite a bit. 133.3. Meantime, Wiki is still busy on his outlap. Not going for a fast lap either. Mundo not going for a fast lap either. Bulls has abandoned his, but he had gone for a very fast lap already. He's starting his fast lap time. In the meantime, people are asking why Nita Happenberg has retired. So we have 9 retired drivers, if I count that correctly earlier on. So Giggle has picked up engine penalty. Because you have to swap 1 engine per season, which means you can't participate in quali and start from the back of the grid. Same thing goes for Trunders, True, Fozzie Bear, Rangeman, John, Mason, and Chiquace, who has replaced Sharky. Matthias has crashed out in turn 5 in his first run, and Funky crashed out after his first flying lap. That's why 9 drivers have currently down the famous Las Vegas strip, as he's currently about a 10th slower than his previous lap time. So I wonder if he is going to come in or if he's going to leave his lap there, because it's very hard to improve. Jess up front was about half a second quicker. I think he takes a wise decision here to go inside, put in a new set, fresh set for soft tires, and then go for another run later on. That definitely is the safer move to make. Doug Shelby also on his outlap. And Mundo currently on the faster lap. He's currently about half a second quicker than his previous lap. That would slot him into a nice P3. Let's see if there is more time to gain for Mundo as he comes down the final bend. He sets a 132.4, moving up to 4th, losing a little bit of time in that final sector there. For the other drivers, they are currently in the pit lane, so we have a little bit of time to breathe a bit and to see what else will be happening here. And I'll be able to give you some more information about the Las Vegas track. So what is important for you guys all to know, there are 2 DRS zones. One that you can find in Sector 1, so in between turn 4 and 5. Mundo has just passed those. And of course the very long DRS zone down the Las Vegas Strip, which you can find at Sectors 2 and also heading into Sector 3. That is where you find your second DRS zone. 17 corners, as I mentioned before, 6.1 kilometers, and a lot of famous corners that you have. Well, the corner names don't really exist here yet. What Las Vegas has done, at least for now, is name it after the buildings that you drive by. So we have turn 1 with the Arbor Island Apartments, Caesars Forum turn 5, already infamous after that quali crash from Matthias. We have our MSG Sphere, which is around turn 7 and 8, which is the middle somewhat of Sector 1. And we come across the Palazzo Venetian, past the Wynn Hotel, Treasure Island, and the Mirage as we enter the strip. We of course have the Bellagio, the wonderful Las Vegas fountains as well. We go like sort of across mini Paris there with the Eiffel Tower that they've remade there, and of course Caesar's Palace also being there. the meantime, we see some drivers come out for their outlaps. Giacomundo has now come inside. A little bit tight for him if he still wants to go for a pits for a final run. He's the only one that pit stop, though. The rest of our drivers are on our outlap. The driver in front of that queue is Hookie. So Hookie will be first going for their lap time. Then it will be either, is it Ols? No, it's Jamie. Then we have Ols. Then we have Ghost currently in third. Nick next. And then Jess will be our fifth driver. Followed by Odoc Shelby, Jamie, and then the last driver to still come out, Giacomundo, but he will not have time. So there will be 7 more drivers going for their runs as Hookie has now started. His Ols actually started his lap before, so let's go on board with Ols. There a little bit, not being able to go through on the throttle straight away. Now makes his way through Sanzan. Heartbreaking. Around the Win Hotel. To your right, the neon LEDs that lit up there. Now coming down the strip. The last Vegas strip. Tonight on the second time set, which will be ending here momentarily. Will show that he's going 6 tenths quicker than his previous lap time, but we'll need to improve another 3 tenths if he wants to go quicker. And Hookie's lap time, but that's an invalidation. That's a clear invalidation. So, he for another lap. Does not have clear export whatsoever. We go on board with Hookie with 4 tenths quicker in his first sector already. And in sector 2, will show he is still those 4 tenths quicker, not improving. And now this heartbreaking where you can win or lose a lot of time. It looks like he can slide over to lose a lot of speed. So he is on his way to at least improve on his position currently in P8. And as the flag has fallen, Giacomundo and Ols will not be doing another lap. Hookie improves one better, overshooting Jess in P7 so far. Go on board with Aiden. He is 8th up on his lap time. Across the start-finish line, beating out Odoc Shelby. He is, of course, still on his flyer. Next one to come round will be Ghost. Also in sector 3, only marginally quicker, so I don't think he will be improving on his lap time. But of course, Odoc Shelby and Jess will still do one quicker than him, does improve slightly. The main driver we'll be keeping an eye on is Nick, but he is already 1.1 seconds slower. He is going to abort, so I don't think any of our drivers will be competing for pole here. Although we have Jess with 2 tenths quicker and Odoc Shelby half a second quicker. But I don't think anyone will be trending that pole position for He just goes to a provisional P5. And now Odoc Shelby is the last driver to still come around the P3, perhaps snatch away that P3 from Ghost. Odoc Shelby now coming across the line, and he sets him up for P3. He spins out with a little crash there. But a P3 for Odoc Shelby and a pole position once again for our championship leader. That is Funky in the Haas. So we have pole position with a 132.4. Nick coming in second, followed by Odoc Shelby, Ghost, Giacomundo, Jess, Jamie, Hookie, Ols, and then it shows Giggle, but Giggle has not set a lap time due to the penalties. The other driver getting the engine penalties and thus had not participated. Giggle, Trunders, Truth, Fozzie Bear, Rachman, John Mason, and Shaquace. And we saw Matthias unfortunately crashing out in his first quali run. So that is what we have so far. In the meantime, I am getting some words that I am a little bit low on sound compared to the rest. So I'll try to up my mic volume slightly so you hopefully can hear me a little bit better. So we're now getting ready for our sprint race. Gives us a little bit of time to go over the stewards briefing right for this Grand Prix. So the steward briefing says, welcome to Las Vegas, also known as Sin City. This week we're heading to a track so brand new that any real life races have been held there yet. As always, a brand new track brings many uncertainties to the table, which our drivers will have to deal with during the weekend. With this weekend being our second of 4 sprint races during the season, and the possibility for multiple engine penalties to be taken, this race should be able to provide some amazing entertainment. Last time out, so last week, saw quite a few incidents being reported across the tiers. P3 tiers saw both reported incidents being deemed no further action, which is important for us. Then some steward notes, lobby restarts. The stewards have issued a long overdue change to the rules regarding lobby restarts. In the case of lobby being forced to restart, all drivers will from now on be able to freely choose their tires for the race. This is regardless of weather conditions, starting position, and qualifying tires. TS still unfortunately isn't ready for use. And then we have some information coming in as well for the pit entry. When entering the pits, you must move over to the left side of the track before the white line. You're not allowed to cross the white line in entry at any point, is what is being mentioned there. In the meantime, we are waiting for players as we are now going for our formation lap. It shows as 6 laps here. I thought previously that this was going to be a 7-lap race, but we have 6 laps here, as we can see, and our starting order will be the same as we saw earlier on. So Funky, followed by Nick, Odog Shelby, Ghost, and Giacomundo. And despite engine penalties, we see Giggle, winner of our last round, last week out in Japan and Suzuka, starting 10. Now making their way around turn 5, the Caesars 4, so it's called. But of course, furthermore to the back, we'll be able to find Caesars Palace out there in Las Vegas. Coming around the MSG Sphere, which is located to the left. Unfortunately, we just cannot see that. I will get some more details up. All drivers, of course, on these soft tires, so we'll be looking at the conditions changed. We will not have our telemetry enabled because that would be a little bit unfair to see who has how much gears left. Might be some information for the engineers out there. Our lap data is important, and of course we have our full track map enabled as well. Of course, a little bit with Funky, warming up his tires here. Slowing down a little bit. We have a long queue here as we are getting ready for our race. Let us know in the chat what your predictions are for this sprint race. Are you expecting any safety cars? Are you expecting any cool overtakes? And of course, who do you expect to win this sprint race? Now entering the final section, Sector 3. As our drivers will be slotting in and getting ready for our race. We'll be starting in about 20 or 30 seconds from now, so if you have any feedback in the chat, I will still be able to give that a proper shout out there. Now we're slotting in, of course, these disqualifications that show up don't matter whatsoever. Just means that they have been reset to the correct positioning. And we have almost everyone slotting in. Shipways is now slotting in, and we will go to the front of the field as our lights will be coming on. There we have them. 3, 4, 5 lights, and off we go with, I think, the best start for the Ferrari on the inside. That is Nick. Will he be able to mount an overtaking move onto Funky? He will stay on the inside there. Very hard on the inside. Let's go on board with him. He does have Funky right on his right side, so he will have to be careful. They don't collide with each other. Go into the wall as Nick almost spins out a little bit, but he has overtaken Funky there. Funky having none of it and immediately trying to go side by side into turn 5, braking a little bit later, but Nick keeping that line on the outside, completing his move there, and we have a yellow in Sector 1, and it looks like it's Giggle. Giggle has retired. Our winner from last time out has retired. I think we might see a safety car. Currently only yellow flags. drivers are driving slow. I think we have a safety car on our hands. I have to look for the signs there, and indeed we have a virtual safety car for that incident in lap 1. Gives us a little bit of time to look at the results, because look at that! Our newcomer Chiquaze has made up 9 positions. Started all the way in P17 and is now in P8. Nick, of course, leapfrogging Funky there. He has taken over the lead. Hooky, 1 position gain. Jamie lost 2. Truth has gained 2. Matthias gained 2. Bulls unfortunately lost 5 positions. And yeah, the unfortunate accident for Giggle there as well. In the meantime, our virtual safety car is still in action, and as soon as that is going to resume or go out, we will restart and get on our way again. And I think the drivers are getting ready for that now. Yellow flag still being waved. It looks like Nick is already on full speed, and we have resumed indeed. And Funky is awfully close to him. As the dog Shelby is still leaving about 8/10 to that. Remember, our DRS will be activated in lap 3. And then we might see some more overtaking actions, especially down the Las Vegas strip. So after turn 12, we enter the final bits of sector 2. We see a little bit of tussling, and we see Fozzie Bear dropping a lot of positions there. He's missing his front wing, so there has been contact. There has been contact with Fozzie Bear. I'm not entirely sure who he has collected there, as we have another yellow flag out in sector 1. That must have been for Hooky, I think. Does he have damage? No, he is not missing a wing end plate as far as I can see. So that looks to be all fine and smooth sailing for him. The gaps are starting to increase a little bit. So behind Hooky, Matthias and Truth are quite close to one another. And Hooky went very wide again, so it is Matthias on the inside now, and I think this time around Hooky should have a little bit of damage, but both of his wing end plates are still intact. Meanwhile, Chiquaze has also dispatched Jamie. It's now all the way up in P7 as Nick has been overtaken by Funky. They're having a little bit of a tussle there, and we can see them going side by side into turn 17, which is our final corner. Funky slightly ahead of Nick, but Nick has the inside line there, so we'll be overtaking him again. And we see some very nice battling going on between the two, and it is Dog Shelby currently with the fastest lap time, 1:35.7. DRS now enabled, but of course important to note that there will be no points for fastest lap here in this sprint race. We have another yellow flag in sector 1. That is for Truth, who has now dropped 3 positions as well. Does Truth have any damage? It does not look like he has any damage, but definitely dropped quite a few positions here as we move back to the front of the field. The first DRS zone did not have too much of an impact, at least on any lead changes that we might have seen, but as soon as we round off the second sector, we're going to see some more DRS action come into play, as Trunders has picked up a 5-second time penalty for cutting a corner, and has seemingly gained some positions with that as well. We will now go on board with Funky. We go down the Las Vegas strip, where the DRS will come into play, and now we will see how powerful that DRS is. DRS has now been opened, and look at that, just smooth sailing by Nick. Nothing that Nick can do about that. He will go for a re-slipstream, but you see how powerful that DRS is. There will be an overtaking opportunity for him there. He does still get a pretty decent exit. Funky almost losing it there on exit, as the dog Shelby has lost quite a bit of time as well, and he is now under pressure for Ghost. Jackamundo on the inside of him as well. We will need to watch out. Jackamundo is slightly ahead of him. Could go for a switchback, but Ghost decides to stay on the outside. Just staying on the outside here means we will be on the inside for turns 3 and 4. Unfortunately, already behind Jackamundo. Jess is also quite close to them. Chiquaze not too far away from them either. You see them round off corner number 5. Nick will have to stay within DRS range if he wants to have any chance of overtaking Funky down the long straight, the Las Vegas strip. that we have there. And Fuzzy Bear and Truth are having a little bit of a tussle at the Westchester Drive, Cobalt Lane, sorry, which of course leads into Caesar's Forum, and where they now are at. So after turn 5 is the Westchester Drive, as we see Fuzzy Bear go in very long. As that damage? That is damage once again. Another front wing gone. The second time he will have to switch that. It's starting to look like a weekend to forget for Fuzzy Bear, as we will have to move back to the front of the field. But interestingly enough, Funky has pulled out a gap to Nick, so does not have to worry about DRS. Someone who has to worry about DRS, however, is Ghost. Jackamundo awfully close. Jess 5/10 away. Chickways 4/10 away. Then a 3-second gap to Jamie, who's under pressure of Trunders. With the main actioning happening right behind Ghost. We are on board with Jackamundo. Ghost was able to re-overtake him on lap 4, but definitely the last has not been said about that. Coming down turn 3 and 4. Ghost seems to be able to pick up a little bit more speed there, and now DRS has been opened for Jackamundo, but I don't think there is enough to go for an overtake there, as we have another incident. That is, I think it's Trunders. Yeah, Trunders has hit something. Let's see if we can find out what has happened to Trunders. He has spun seemingly and lost his front wing, so he'll be dropping down the order. He's now in P14. A lot of incidents already in this race, and it doesn't look like there are any incidents because of contact between other drivers. So it seems to be that most of these things are happening on their own. We will now go on board with Ghost, as you see how close Jackamundo is there. Matthias, in the meantime, has retired from the session. He has also crashed out. Are we going to see... Well, we can't see a safety car now. And Jess is now under pressure. Jess is under pressure from Chiquaise. Chiquaise has come down the inside, but what a sprint race he's been having. This has given me some throwback vibes to Brazil 2021, where Lewis Hamilton was able to dispatch so many drivers in the sprint race at Brazil. Chiquaise has made up an enormous 12 positions already in 5 laps, as we are now entering the final race lap here at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, as Jazz will have to watch out for Jackamundo. Down the inside he goes, but Jazz is having none of that, and showing that even with the outside line has a little bit of extra pace to go with that. Meanwhile, Chiquaise very close to that Aston Martin, and he's now up in P4. This is an amazing race that he's been having, and I am excited for our main race, because if we can show this pace and this overtaking in the sprint race, what can you do? And our main race goes a little bit wide there, but not costing him too much yet, although Ghost will be hot on his tail trying to go for an overtake, as Jackamundo has picked up a 3-second time penalty for repeated violations. That, of course, being for track limits. We will stay on board with Ghost, because as we come down our next left-hander, he will try to make a move onto Chiquaise, and Chiquaise should be sitting up. Let's go on board. Mercedes engine going all the way there, as Chiquaise will have to slot in behind him. It will be very, very difficult for him to make an overtaking move again, unless there's a mistake coming in. They'll have a very nice line there. Still going to try and make it happen, as Funky will be the first one across the line. He is going to win that sprint race, but Chiquaise with a little bit of a sprint of his own, overtaking there in the last quarter. So 4th place for him, with Shelby and Nick share 3rd and 2nd, as we now see our drivers come in. Jackamundo with a penalty, dropping back a little bit. It is Ghost in P5, Jess P6, 7th for Jamie, Jackamundo in 8th, Rachman making up 6 positions. A pretty good sprint race of his own in P9. Same thing to be said for John, who is P10. Then we have Mookie in P11, and our final points will be going to Oles as he finishes in P12. Thunders is now in, and our final driver to cross the line will be Fuzzy Bear, without the front wing here, slowly going over, and that is a sprint race to forget for him. as our drivers will be getting ready for our main race. Remember, for the main race, a lot more laps that we will be driving. So let's go out a little bit, dial up the mic so we can hear a little bit more, and we have a little bit of time to talk about what will be happening as we have, well, it shows the points here, but of course our points are different. Funky, Nick, Adok Shelby, Shaquaze in P4, Ghost, Jess, then we have Jamie. Sorry, we'll go to this one. It's a little bit better. Ghost, Jess, Jamie, Jackamundo, Rachman, John Mason, Hookie, Ols, Shruth, Shrunders, Fozzie Bear, Matthias, and Giggle. But we see Matthias having quite a bit of a faster lap time, 35.6. That should put him up to P4. But look at that, Shaquaze almost matching the speed from Shelby. Actually being one of the fastest drivers out. Might even be the no, look, Shelby is the fastest driver out there. He had the fastest lap time, and we will see what he can do in the race. We will go to the ride overlay that we have here. We are now going to see, let's see, I made a note of this. We will have 22 laps with the 2 mandatory pit stops. And let's see if we can dial up the mic a little bit so we can make it a little bit louder for you. Let's have a look if we can increase that a little bit more. I think over here I can gain it a little bit. This should be all fine. Now you should be able to hear everything as is supposed to be, and then we can jump straight back into the action where we are currently waiting for players and waiting for our main race. It gives me a little bit of time to hydrate a bit, because of course a very intense action, being here and speaking a lot. If you want me to shush a little bit, do let me know in the chat. I've been trying to speak a bit, but hopefully also a bit of time to listen to those wonderful engine sounds here in F1 23. Still waiting for our 17 drivers to come in. We have our drivers all set here, and we are going for our formation lap. It shows 18 laps, so the information I had written down prior to this, fortunately a little bit incorrect. So instead of 7 and 22, we have 6 and 18 laps in total. And we saw a lot of action, a lot of, well, crashes and, well, incidents on their own in the sprint race in the 6 laps. Now 3 times the distance, so aside from that virtual safety car, perhaps we can see a full safety car. But I think this also shows that when we're going to Vegas in November for the real F1 calendar, it should be quite action-packed and incident-packed as well. We have the inside view, unfortunately. So again, we can't see that MSG sphere down the inside on the left. So I'm trying to give you the information here. We want to go, we keep the intervals, but we want to have the tire information, which is important for you. Remember, 2 mandatory pit stops, so we will see a lot of drivers use the soft set of compounds, and I think a soft medium, a soft medium soft, or a medium soft will be the preferred strategy. So we could already see that 6 laps definitely not is an issue here. We have almost all of our drivers starting on the softs, aside from Jackamundo starting on the medium set of compounds. Penalties, perhaps we'll see a few as well. 2 stops, as I mentioned, mandatory. But at the start, we'll keep an eye on our position changes, because it will be very important to see who has the best start and who can do the most. And I think we should also keep a little bit of an eye on Shaquaze, who had a very great start last time around, dispatching 9 drivers just before turn 5 already. That is quite amazing. What I really liked about him as well is the line that he took coming into turn 14, I think, all the way at the end of sector 3, so after the Long Vegas strip. Turn 13 it is, sorry. He had a very a very close line. It was a lot to the, well, not necessarily at the apex, but even more to the left. We see most of our drivers going a little bit more wide, a little bit more to the right, either hitting the apex or going slightly outside of that. And Chickways taking a shorter line there. Now we have all of our drivers slotted in, I believe. We should have all of them in. We're waiting for the lights to come on. Of course, no light incidents that we can have like we had at Monza a few weeks ago in the real world racing. Although not too much seems to be happening yet with the lights. Would be cool if that was actually a thing. But of course, the standings that we can see currently on our left are not correct, so when they reset we will be starting, but all of our drivers are ready, so I am not entirely sure what is happening here. See, if we go on board with all of our drivers, we see that all of our drivers are in their starting positions. We go back to Chickways. I wonder what's happening. I see our host is currently typing in the Discord chat, so let's see what they mention. And it is solved. It is solved. We are getting ready for 5 lights, and off we are with a very good start for one of the Alfa Romeos. I think that is Giacomundo, and Chickways immediately picking up a few positions as he has gone with the overtake on Odok Shelby, now in P3, having a very short line as we follow him come round and see if he can make a move onto Nick. Already into turn 5, had a very nice line there coming out. Quite a bit of overspeed here as well, actually having a look down the inside, but not going for a move there. He'll be playing a little bit of a waiting game, but I think he might be one of our drivers that can contest Funky here a little bit, as we have a yellow in sector 1. Chickways going very wide here again, but seeing him do that the second time now, I'm starting to wonder if that perhaps is the line that he has taken. We see that Fozzie Bear and Giggle have made up quite a few positions. Giacomundo, John, and Oles and Truth also fallen back quite significantly. And we have Rageman, one of our championship competitors, and made up 2 positions, currently in P7. Chickways. Now we can't see exactly how much he is behind Nick, but he has a pretty good slipstream down the Las Vegas Strip. Can he make a move stick into turn 13? He surely is looking for it, surely wants to look for it, but does not want to commit here. Rather go for a better exit. And I think he's still too far behind to make a move onto Nick and take over that P2 position. In the meantime, Jess awfully close to Fozzie Bear and looking at the inside here, but actually getting overtaken from the outside by Hookie. And Hookie will want to try and make a move into turn 1 as well, almost hitting the back of Fozzie Bear there. Going a little bit wide, giving Jess the opportunity to have a look down the outside. And this is a line that you can take here in turn 3 and 4, although it is now Giggle trying to dispatch Jess as he has the inside line for turn 5, and we're 3 cars wide. It's Giggle trying to yield, starting to yield, Jess still staying there. And a little bit of contact with Giggle. Is that damage? Oh, we have another huge crash there from Oles. That is a car out. Oles is out of this race. Trundles and Matthias have pit, and we have a safety car on the track. We have a full out safety car, and this had to happen after we saw that incident. Huge incident coming out there, and now we'll have some time to relax a little bit. And I think a lot of our drivers will immediately come in for a pit stop. Remember, the soft tires did seem to last easily for those 6 laps. We have 16 laps remaining. Safety car at least for 2 laps. So I think this is a safe moment to switch to your medium set compounds and then go and make that swap at about lap 11, lap 12, and then go for the soft. So I think for some of the drivers this will be a little bit welcome, the early pit stop. Although for Trunders and Matthias, well, they can immediately go for the second pit stop actually and go for hards. This could be interesting. I think with 16 laps to go, you could finish this on the hard set of compounds. If you now switch to hards, they already made their pit stops. You adhere to the rules, have 1 pit stop less, and if you can keep pace, perhaps it could work out in your favor. Of course, all the drivers up on front are now going to come in. So we're not going to see anything crazy there. Apart, Chiquace is dropping down the order though. But I don't think that is how it's supposed to go, or has he dropped positions? He has dropped positions. Giacomundo has gone with overtakes. A lot of overtakes. How is he in P2? He has gained like 4 or 5 positions with that pit stop sequence. That must have been one amazing pit stop for Giacomundo. Trunders deciding to stay out. Matthias also, so they don't seem it to be worth to go for the hard set of compounds already. And indeed the confirmation here, Giacomundo in P2. He's gotten quite a few positions there. Chiquaze has lost 2. Nick has lost 1. I think Jamie has gained a little bit as well there. The rest seems to be all normal. Yeah, seems to be all normal. We're now behind the safety car. We see Matthias now coming down the back of the field. So as far as Q concerned, we could be ready for a restart at the end of this lap, but I think we will have another lap behind our safety car before we are going to resume. And as we already mentioned, we had that safety car. We had a virtual safety car in the sprint race. We did predict that we were going to see a safety car here. A very early safety car though, coming out lap 2. And if he is going to come in, we will hear about that now. But I think we will have another lap behind the safety car. And no visual confirmation yet. So we have a bit more time behind our safety car. A little bit of time more to relax and see what is going to play out. In the meantime, what I'd like to know from you guys all in the chat, what do you think so far has been going on? Who do you think has the best opportunity to win this race, and how many more safety cars you are going to predict for the remainder of these 14 laps that we're going to have here? Like Truth has come in for his second pit stop in the meantime. I think he'll be switching to hards. Let's actually look at the tires, because that is important for us to know. So Rachman and Fozzie Bear wanting to go for softs again, wanting to end the race on mediums. John's gone for hards. Matthias is on hards. He has 2 pit stops, mind you. Trunder's also 2 pit stops. He is on mediums, so I don't think he can make it to the end. Truth. No, 2 laps old. Sorry. We have to look at the stops. Truth has 2 pit stops, so he could finish the race, technically. So he's doing what we were talking about earlier on. And yeah, Matthias going for a long run, John going for a long run. They don't think they can make it last on the mediums. Giacomundo actually has not made a pit stop. So that explains why he's been able to gain so many positions. But Nick definitely still staying ahead of Chiquaze. So yeah, that explains why he was able to gain so much. So no pit stop for him. A little bit risky if you ask me. We also saw him leave the session, so perhaps that is why that has come to play. But let's see, he is on the mediums. He did start in the mediums. Likely will want to make them last a little bit longer. I think he is betting on another safety car, but to be fair, he would still have to go for some extra stops then. So going to be a tricky race for Giacomundo. I hope we'll be able to make the most out of that. Now we are going to go back on board. We see the lights come out. Safety car in this lap as we are getting ready for our restart. Let's go on board with Funky, who is now allowed to dictate the pace. Now we have a good view of Las Vegas as well. As we're driving a little bit more slowly, we can see what's going on. The Las Vegas Hotel on the left, the right. Not sure if that was the Wynn Hotel. I don't think it was, because that is further down the field. I think Funky will be starting roundabout. Now there he is. We are on our way. The race has been resumed, and it looks like Nick is very much awake. already very close to Giacomundo. Not going for an overtake there. We have a yellow sector 3, but that is not important. As we see Rageman going with the overtake onto Jamie. Jamie now taking that position back from Rageman. The gaps quite close with Ghost and Chiquaze, and also Nick towards Giacomundo. So that is the fight that I want to look at. Let's see if Nick can go with an overtake onto Giacomundo. Has the fresher tires, because Giacomundo did not come in earlier on and already has to lift a little bit. Does also have to look at his rearview mirrors, and Funky already able to get a bit of a distance between him and Giacomundo. That will come in handy later on, but I think Nick will want to fly down now. He will want to make that overtaking move as soon as possible, although it's very hard to do it coming into turn 12? Turn 12, yeah, the Win Hotel and the fashion show model that you have there. Now down the strip, turning 4 tenths behind, Chiquaze only 2 tenths behind him. So we have a long slipstreaming train, and now we see some drivers go to the sides. And Nick has gotten past, Chiquaze has gotten by. I think Ghost might even go with a move as well, as we see on the inside a very late break from Giacomundo, but Chiquaze has gone by. No incidents there, just has to keep it out of the wall there, and Ghost has now also overtaken Giacomundo. So Giacomundo dropping down 3 positions there, as Funky has now set the fastest lap time. Start to see a little bit of FPS hampering though, although I don't see any issues with that on OBS, so perhaps you guys will not be able to see that, which of course is positive. We're now on board with Ghost. Giacomundo 4 tenths behind, and Chiquaze 4 tenths ahead of him, as he will be looking to stay into Nick's reach and pick up some nice positions there. As Fozzie Bear is going to overtake onto Jamie. Jamie also dropping down 2 positions, and Rageman has overtaken Giacomundo. So it shows that not making that pit stop there has caused him a little bit. Rageman also going for a wider line here, as we saw Chiquaze do. So it looks like this is definitely a viable line you can take here down the Las Vegas Grand Prix. So about 9 tenths behind Ghost, but he will need to make up a couple more positions, because remember, he did not pick up any points in Japan. He crashed out. Very unfortunate for him. He was not happy with his race performance last time round. And if he wants to stay within reach of Funky, he will need to try and at least pick up a podium position here. Has already made out 4 positions, and with 12 laps to go, there still is some time to make more happen there, as Ghost has gone extremely close to Chiquaze. Fozzie Bear, meanwhile, dispatched Giacomundo as well. As Giggle also made up 9 positions already. He crashed out in the sprint race. Nick is quicker than Funky, that's important to know. But yeah, Giggle also already up in 8. Made up 9 positions, same as Fozzie Bear, so they're having some great races there. Because both of the drivers had that engine penalty as well. So that is why they were down the back of the grid in the first place. Biggest loss so far for Doc Shelby, losing 11 positions, and also Jess losing 5 positions there, as Giacomundo has re-overtaken Fozzie Bear. But Fozzie Bear not wanting to give up just yet, as he is down the outside, but he has yielded now and will not go for another move. I think instead we'll be waiting a little bit until DRS will be activated coming next lap. In the meantime, I am out of my drink, so I'll have to make do with the remaining 11 laps without any hydration. I hope the drivers have a little bit of more hydration, as Ghost is hot on Chiquaze still. So let's go on board. He is on the inside, has the quicker line because of that slipstream. Chiquaze is still staying very, very close to him. Both of them have the DRS already, so it was already enabled. And they have come very close to Nick going too wide. Does that work? I think there was a little bit of contact there, but no damage seemingly, and Ghost has gotten the overtake done. Now Rageman is looking down the inside of Chiquaze as well. Let's go on board with Rageman. Come in, round the outside. He has the fastest lap time so far, but he's also on the soft set of compounds, taking a wider line here. Shikwa's keeping the inside there, leaving an awful lot of space for Rageman to dive into. And this might be his ticket for an overtake into the next ERS zone. Trying to go with a little bit of strip streaming. Shikwa's not defending the inside, and Rageman not wanting to go for a move either. Shikwa's going a little bit wide there though, but not enough speed for Rageman to make the move stick for now. And he's going to keep a little bit of distance between him and Shikwa's as he is now looking around the outside. This is a very unconventional move. He could line himself up, go for a switch back. A little bit of contact there, I think, but can he make it stick now? Still behind him, moving alongside him, moving alongside. We have yellow in sector 1, but no driver has stopped on the track, so that is all safe for now. No further safety car action, as I think both of our drivers here. We have another caution, sector 2. That is an Alfa Romeo. I think that's Giacomundo. I think Giacomundo has gone into... No, he's just overshot. He has not gotten any damage. He has lost quite a few positions there. So Doc Shelby now flies by him. And in the meantime, Rageman has picked up a position from Shikwa's. So he's dropping back a little bit. But let's see if he can start picking up the pace again and go for an overtake later on in the race. Remember, we still have a pit stop to go for all of our drivers, and for Rageman that means he has to go to the mediums, as Shikwa's will be going to the softs again. This will give you another inside look on our compound tires, which you can see here. So mediums almost all the way through, 6 lap old softs for Rageman, so I think Rageman will be coming in perhaps at the end of this lap. Our hard runners will stay out a little bit longer. So yeah, he will have to go for the mediums, or even go conservative for hards, but I think he will go for the mediums. So far, no further penalties, as Truth has picked up the position for Matthias. Fozzie Bear actually dropped down all the way down 2, so he has been involved with an incident also. Had 2 incidents in the sprint race, and now another in the main race. Not a weekend for him. A weekend for him to forget, as we see Rageman not within DRS reach, at least for the time being, of Ghost. And Ghost getting fairly close to Nick, but he does not have DRS either. The gaps up front, fairly small, 1.3, 1.2, 1.0, 1.3, and 1.6 for top 6 drivers, as Jess has gotten the overtake on Schlunders, and Matthias back onto Truth. But the gap from Schlunders to Jazz at this moment being the closest, as we're waiting for one of our drivers in the top 5 to enter the ERS zone. And indeed, Rageman has now gone into the pits, as he is going to swap out for mediums, which I think he'll make it to the end of the race too. But keep in mind, he is going to have quicker laps now. Might pick up some few positions with that, but then we'll have to defend the other drivers and fend them off as he comes back out on track just behind Truth. But he will need to make sure that he doesn't get stuck here. He has the arrest. He has to go for a double overtake here realistically. But can he do that? Can he do that? Can he do that? Can he? He's on the inside. He's on the inside of Truth. Now on the outside. Cannot make it stick here. Looked like it was about to be a bit of contact. Now there is contact, and he's completely spun out Truth. That is going to be protest, and I think that will be a penalty for him. But T has gotten a penalty for corner cutting there, as he had to avoid. Now given a position back to Rageman, but this is not a good race for Rageman either. We'll have to see the onboard from Truth a little bit more, but of course we could see that very well. What happened there, as now Giggle has gotten the overtake done onto Shikwa's. He is dropping down the order a little bit as Jazz has picked up yet another position. Jazz is now P7, having a really good race so far. And so is Jamie, and so is Giggle. Because if we once again look at our positions change, what we can find is 13 positions for Giggle. Shikwa is of course still hot on his tail, I think he made a little bit of a mistake because he was much closer to the front runners before. Now the gap is 3.6 towards goals, but both of the Aston Martins in very good finishing positions, P3 and 4 currently. We now go on board with Chiquaze. What he will need to do is stay close for that next DRS zone. Also contact with Chiquaze and Giggle. It almost looks like the driver that we go on board with immediately is involved with an incident, and this is because of the different lines. We see that Chiquaze and Rachman actually both take different lines going into that corner, braking later, missing the apex, and keeping the car tight for the next right-hander. The other drivers not doing that, and this is costing some of these incidents, causing these incidents to happen. It doesn't look like Chiquaze has any damage. You will definitely get a penalty from this from the stewards, and has also picked up 3 seconds for corner padding, or for track limits, not for corner padding. So he will be investigated for that after the race, as Ghost is now very close to Nick. Let's hope we don't make it 3 out of 3. We're going on board with someone and then seeing an incident happen. It's now 6 tenths behind, so a little bit further away. A pretty fast lap times here, so it doesn't look like the mediums are at the end of their life. Chiquaze has come in for his pit stop, so I think he's going for the softs for his last pit stop. More drivers coming in, Jess, Wookie, and Giggle also. I think for Giggle, it's also because he has a little bit of damage. Although the question is, can he get that fixed? Matthias, by the way, later on, when he's going to come in, will have to wait the 5 seconds and have his penalty removed. This is very close to Nick. I think currently Ghost is one of the quicker drivers out on track. And with DRS coming into play after the next hard braking zone towards the left, so turn 12, that is the Win Hotel. And there you have it, the Win Plaza, Fashion Show Mall we have there. Now coming past Treasure Island and the Mirage, as we see the overtaking move heading towards Bellagio, the fountains, and hopefully there's the Eiffel Tower to our left. And the beautiful scenery has seen us take goals past Nick. And now the question is, we have another yellow flag. Another yellow flag. That is Jess and Truth. Jess and Truth are out. I think that is contact between the two. That must have been. And this is a safety car. A full-out safety car, meaning the drivers that just went in perhaps went a lap too early. Because all of our drivers that didn't stop are going to come in for their pits now. So Funky will come in. Ghost is in. Nick is in. And Jamie, John, Doug, Shelby will come in. Rachman maybe not. Pick up a few positions with that. Matthias coming in, Chiquaze likely not. Let's see if we look at the tires. Fozzie Bear could perhaps make that move. I think Matthias should come in as well, though. His very old tires. Chiquaze staying out, it's predicted. Fozzie Bear stays out too. Matthias comes in. Trunder stays out. Giggle will stay out. Giacomundo likely to stay out. So after this, let's see, Matthias. Well, Giacomundo will still have to make a pit stop, so I think he's coming in too. He's in now as well. So after this sequence, I think all of our drivers will have made their pit stops. They're mandatory 2 pit stops. And we see Truth apologizing that he mentioned he understeered, lost the car. And I think unfortunately collected Jess with that, so that explains this incident, which we unfortunately were not able to catch live on the stream with an onboard. And let's see, the tires. Most of our drivers are on the soft compounds. Fozzie Bear and Rachman are on mediums. John is on mediums. Although Shelby, interestingly, on new set of parts, so perhaps he didn't have any new tires left, as Matthias and Giacomundo also on softs. But I think the main fight will be happening with Chiquaze, Nick, Ghost, and Funky. Rachman currently on podium course, but he will have a hell of a job to do with these soft runners behind him. on fresher tires. In the meantime, let's see if I can pick myself up some lovely drink to finish out the race with. That is the perks of having some drinks ready at your room. The streaming room, so to say. Jess, of course, being very disappointed because she hadn't had a DNF in ages. Be very curious to the stats. Maybe one of our stat guys in chat can let us know how many races it's been since Jess has last retired from an OHR race. And it's indeed already my co-caster Ace already asking this. Ace unfortunately not being able to make it tonight, but I think she'll be back in the commentary box, feeling a little bit under the weather today. So Ace, do get well soon and hope you feel better very, very soon. And yeah, just see pick up. Oh, speeding in the pit lane, but why do you go in? You have your 2 stops. He wants fresher tires. Okay, not entirely sure what happened. Not entirely. Drinks definitely needed for this race. Drivers will have to watch out. Don't have any incidents here behind the safety car, but I think this will be our second and last safety car, with our drivers now catching up. At least playing catch up, just Hooky having to catch up. I think we'll be resuming racing in lap 15, which means that starting lap 17, we're going to see DRS. So for the final 2 laps, we will find that. In the meantime, we have Chiquaze apologizing for the crash with Giggle. I mentioned he lost the front end and couldn't stop in time. He's also struggling with that corner still. Yeah, like we know, that has a different line through there, just like Rachman. So, not entirely sure if it's because of a braking point, because you don't have any visual cues in turn 7 when you go to the left. So that could explain it partially. But it could also be a different line, so we'll have to see. In the meantime, we see the lights come out, so the safety car is in this lap. So let's have a good view of our restart at the front of the pack with Funky, who will be under pressure, of course. Remember, before Funky was able to drive out of the DRS range, but Shelby and John have to switch positions again. Has anything happened? Not sure. I think everything's restored. But let's get ready for the final stretch of the race, the final 4 laps of this Las Vegas Grand Prix, and it's go! We have Funky underway, and it immediately looks like Rachman is getting ready for it. Jamie has picked up a 5-second penalty for ignoring the yellow flags in the meantime. And immediately Rachman is looking down the inside of goals. This is something you will have to do. You will have to try and make overtakes done as fast as possible. He is on the oldest set of tires. And oh, whoa, Nick came out of nowhere there. Seeming to, there's a little bit of lag going on there, so Rachman really has to watch out. And he wisely chooses to brake a little bit earlier, but because of that we have yellow. I think that is Giacomo. Did he flip the wall? He's driving slowly. Yeah, he has no front wing. And we have a virtual safety car because of that incident, because of the debris on the track. Again, means that Funky can manage the pace, but of course has no impact, at least for further safety cars that we could have in the remainder of this season. In this race, sorry. As we are approaching our final 3 laps, I want to hear everyone in the chat out there. Who do you think is going to pick up the Rachman race win? Is that going to be Rachman, Chiquaze, Nick, Ghost, Funky, or is there someone that we're missing out? A driver that could perhaps surprise us a little bit here? Let us know. This will likely be ending very soon, around about this time it ended last time around. Now braking. Don't see any flag there. There's it is. Green flags all around. Chickways immediately very close to Rachman. Let's get that bird's eye view of this as he's within 0.4 of a second of Rachman. Rachman was overtaken by Nick. And again, yellow, and it is the other Mercedes out there. And it looks like Jamie's had a little bit of an incident there. He has not lost the front wing end plate there. Perhaps overshot or spun a little bit there. So we might hear from him towards the end of the race what happened to him. As you can see Giacomondo come into the pits. And we have Hooky into the wall. That is another big impact. I think another lost front wing indeed. But because we're so late into the race, we can no longer have a safety car. Giacomondo, yeah, having that stop done now. Goals already 1.8 seconds behind, 1.9 even behind Funky. So Funky seems to be having a decent lead out there. Although it's Chiquet's trying to get closer to Rachman. So let's see what he can do in the remainder of this race. Having a look down the inside, but there's a lot of teleporting going on. There's, oh, but wait. Is that Rachman out? Rachman has lost his... Has he lost his front wing? Or was it just lag? Does he have damage? It looked like it. I think he's missing a front wing end plate on the right. Yes, he is. He is missing a front wing end plate. So indeed, there was contact with the wall for Rachman there. So he might drop a few positions more as we now have DRS enabled. Chikway is now 3 seconds down to Nick as Trunders gone with the overtake onto Rachman as well. Rachman in a lot of trouble here, has to watch out that he doesn't outbreak himself and cause another crash. It would be terrible for his championship bid. He wants to make anything happen as he lets his teammate go by. That is Fozzie Bear. So he can hopefully go with some more moves. Goes corner cutting, 3 second time penalty. Had to avoid, I think, Giggle there. This is not looking good for Rachman. He is dropping down the order, and he might drop at least another position to Giggle there. And of course, with that damage, he's going to struggle more and more. Let's go on board with Giggle down the long straight. I think we have DRS now. Rachman should also have it though, so that might not mean too much. But with the drivers being so close, I think Giggle will be able to make use of that slipstream. He gets very close. Remember, soft tires can go for later braking on the inside of turn 13, but doesn't want to make the move here. It's the corner where the mistake last time round was made by Rachman. But this time keeps it clean. He keeps Giggle at a good distance there as Nick has caught up with Ghost in P2. Can Nick still go for an overtake on this final lap here? It looks like Funky will be able to take that win here if he doesn't make any mistakes there. Last time round was his worst placing. I believe he finished P4, P5. Aside from that, he's only finished on the podium. That looks like he'll be collecting one. Well, he's a multiple race winner already. I'm not sure if he's going to be picking up his 3rd win of the season here, but I think it might be. Although we have a little bit of a look at the end of the race for that. For now, we will have our eyes on, oh, Rachman again, time penalty. He is going to fall out of contention. Not for points. I think he'll just finish in front of Jamie. Chiquet is also still with a penalty, so he'll be dropping down the order. Nick almost making, going very wide there. Still has DRS, I think. Does he? There is DRS. Trunders is overtaking Chiquet's, but Nick can't go for another move. But look at that, a lot of action coming down there. 3-man wide as we come down the Las Vegas strip. It is a McLaren on the inside. That is Fozzie Bear. It looks like Rachman will want to follow. He's gone past Chiquet's inside contact. There's no contact so far. The drivers are making it through cleanly. Fozzie Bear seems to have overtaken it. Is Funky picking up the race win instead? Nick in P3, then Ghost in 2nd. Fozzie Bear winning that battle there as we have a lot of drivers coming around a photo finish. A photo finish with a crash as well. Chiquet's has crashed out but did get across the line. So Fozzie in 4, Trunder's 5th, Giggle in P6. Then we have Matthias, Odok Shelby, Shaquaze, John Mason, Rachman P11 after penalties. Then it's Jamie in P12. And now we're just waiting for Hookie and Giacomondo to come across the finish line, the two drivers outside of our top 12. But for them, of course, also a point to pick up, depending on who gets the fastest lap there. But a race win yet again for Funky. He is going to be very, very happy with that. Had another excellent weekend out there. But we will have to look at, before we do anything else, at our driver of the day. And I think our driver of the day, I will have to give it to Fozzie Bear here. He's been involved in 2 incidents in the sprint race, 1 incident in the main race, and still able to put that car on P4. That is very, very impressive of him. And I don't want to talk about your incidents for your interview, for your question here. That would be a shame. I want to talk about that massive overtaking run that you've done in the main race. How was it to overtake that many drivers and take P4? Are you satisfied with the result because of that? In the meantime, we are enjoying the podium celebrations here, where we have 3 different teams, 3 different manufacturers out on the podium. A Haas, an Aston Martin P2, and a P3 for the Ferrari. Drivers enjoying the champagne here as we now have our results, and we are going to go over not the weekend results, but the results that we will want to see are, of course, the race results. Funky coming in first, also fastest lap time, picking up an extra point with that. Then we have Ghost in P2, P3 for Nick, Fozzie Bear, Trunders, Giggle P6, Matthias, Doc Shelby, Shaquaze, our debutee, P9, P10 for John, Rachman, and Jamie rounding off our point scores, P12. And then from P13 onwards, we find Hookie, Giacomondo, Charuth, Jess, and Ols in P17. Those are our full results, and this was, well, quite an eventful Las Vegas Grand Prix here. Our 6th round of the race, our 2nd sprint race, as we are now halfway done with our season. So we'll have a little bit of time to chat about the standings that we've had, and of course our sponsors too. Let's first go to not our calendar, which we'll have in a little bit. We will have the drivers. Sharky switched out with Shaquaze, who likely has picked up his first points of the season, although he will definitely be under investigation for what has happened with Giggle. Now, Funky was already leading the championship with 97 points. Worst finish so far was in Japan, last race out in 4th place, now picking up another race win. This is his 3rd win of the season after the sprint win in Imola, I believe, and then a win, it was in Brazil. So his 3rd win of the season. Rachman picking up some points as well here, but the gap definitely increasing now. It was already 25 points, and now that gap is going to go beyond 30 points. So a big lead for Funky in the season, in the championship so far. Truth not picking up any positions because of that incident, so he's going to lose his P3 in the championship to Giggle. And aside from that, not too much more will be happening. A little bit of a drink as we have some time to first look at our sponsors for the season, because that is very important, and after that I will take you over the calendar so we know what will be happening in the weeks to come. But first off, a word from our sponsors, because we have a £2,500 prize pool for the season, split across the sections, with some gift cards and of course some nice rewards that I'll be addressing later on. For the Drivers' Championship, first place will get a £50 voucher, either PS or Amazon, and of course free entry into the next season, which is for the entire top 5. And the constructor winners both will get free entry into the next season as well, which this time is looking to be going to Haas. of course, it can still change. Then NLR sponsoring one of the winners in either P3, 2 or 1 with the FGT Elite Light Cockpit and Elite ES1 Sim Racing seat. Between second and third in the tiers, the GT Elite Light Cockpit and the RS2 Racing seat. And for all drivers, if you have participated in at least 10 races in Season 23, you'll be in with a chance to win the Wheel Stand 2.0. Furthermore, we are also powered by Acetec. We'll be giving these wonderful boots to the shortest combined qualifying time throughout the series and the tiers, as well as pure sim racing gear, giving the driver with the most fastest laps and poles combined a pair of sim racing gloves or socks. We have mystery sim box for the winner of our driver rankings, Vespertine, ERT, who is also helping out with the ERT Going Get Stuff Award. And also, since of last week, we have an ERT racer in all of our tiers, so tier 3, 2, and 1. Where tier 1, the ERT team has been doing exceptionally well. With some info for the Go and Get Stuff Award, you have to attend all races, finish outside the top 3, and complete all pre- and post-race interviews to have a chance to win these wonderful Aztec SimSource prizes, which I believe is a t-shirt. And finally, powered by SimGrid, where you can find our standings at the Mental Health Foundation. Before we go over to the calendar, we will go over the chat a little bit and see what has happened there, at least what the drivers are mentioning there. Funky wishing GG's to everyone. Chikwe's mentioning that he had a good sprint and the real race didn't go to plan at all, and he's glad that it's over. Onto the real tracks now, he has mentioned. Jamie mentioning that he bottled such a good result under the safety car. And then for one of our other drivers, I think it was Giacomundo, his wheel broke down and said his brake was always down, so he switched to a controller mid-race, which was also broken, and then he hit a wall. So that didn't work out. Rageman saying sorry to Truth, wasn't meant to be with the hit, so that didn't go great. Jamie went for the wired connection of round 3, that didn't go too well. Rageman also saying GG to all. Now, before we are going to round off the stream, finally a look onto our calendar, which has been on display for a bit, but not come under scrutiny from myself yet. We've now had our first half of the season with races in Qatar, Imola, Hungary, Brazil, Japan, and just now Las Vegas. And next week we will have our eyes on the race at Portugal, the Portimao racetrack, which is the only track on the calendar where I've once driven some laps on. Not where I was just, well, not really bystander, but just sitting in the car, not driving myself. That I've also had the pleasure of at Zandvoort, and 2 weeks time also real racing. But that is not, of course, interesting for the season because we don't have Zandvoort on the calendar. So Portimao is up next week. In 2 weeks time we have a race in Belgium before going for a 1 week break, heading out to Spain on the 15th of October, the Circuit de Catalunya near Barcelona. Then we have Singapore the week after, followed by Silverstone around 11, and then our final race will be on the Circuit of the Americas, another sprint weekend. Same goes for Barcelona sprint weekend, but our season finale on the 12th of November. But the drivers will have to contest Funky a little bit more, because otherwise we might see the championship decided in Silverstone already. That was the action for tonight, folks. I hope you all enjoyed it. Hopefully I did not talk all too much throughout this session, and I hope the amping up of the mic a little bit has helped out for you to hear me a little bit more clearly. This was the race for a 1UP Racing Pier 3. Make sure to tune in with the action currently going on with P2 on Twitch, and of course in 30 minutes from now tune in with the action for P1 here on YouTube as well. that was it for tonight. I was your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and I will see you next week along with my co-caster race for the ERT race of Portugal on the 24th of September, 7 p.m. European time, 6 p.m. British time, back on Twitch. See you then, and have a very good night.